Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. How are you guys doing today? Man, we are recording this and 2020 is whittling down, and I am sure many of you guys are excited. Hoping that 2021 will bring a lot of awesome new stuff, but we can't forget all that 2020 has brought us despite of all the difficult things. And today we're actually going to be talking to Roberta Alves on where is she now and her success story. And I feel like it's kind of like relevant to 2020, right? Like a lot of times we struggle on through until we are able to reach a level of success and then beyond. And so she's going to be sharing her journey today. So we're really excited about that. But before we get started and dive into Roberta's success story, I hope that you guys joined us last week as we spoke with Danielle Swim and we hosted her on the podcast and we talked all about getting organized. So I'm going to give you guys like a truth bomb. So Danielle talked about time audit, and as much as I've coached and been in business coaching and sat as a student myself, I've never done a time audit. So you know what? I've done a time audit last week for 3 days, and then I continued it on for 2 days to really look at my time. So Danielle drops a lot of other great opportunities to really get organized. You're not going to want to miss that podcast. So go back, and if your goal is getting organized for next year, definitely listen. A little bit about Roberta. Roberta specializes in helping her clients overcome anxiety. To me, she is the anxiety guru. I'm always referring her folks who need help with anxiety. She also helps them kick migraines in the butt. She opened her practice in Fort Lauderdale in 2013. Fun facts about her: she was born in Sydney, Australia, and her entire family is from Brazil. And if you're brand new to Startup Nation, we'd love to welcome you to the Startup Nation family. And good families give gifts. So we want to gift you something. So head on over to privatepracticestartup.com and move on over to the resources tab. You're going to see plenty of things there you could take advantage of. But I'd love to point out to you that like it, love it, or hate it, we all need paperwork. So go ahead and grab that customizable attorney approved private practice HIPAA form. All right. Without further ado, Roberta, looking lovely. She I know this is a podcast. Like her jacket is beautiful and it like matches this beautiful background of Sydney, Australia, where she was born. And her lipstick is like the beautiful accessory to it all.
Thank you.
Looking fabulous as always.
Thank you, ladies. And thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a guest. Long-time listener. First-time guest.
Long overdue. We've been wanting to talk for a while. So yay, it's finally happening.
Yes. Thank you, ladies, again for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm like, so excited. I couldn't sleep last night. I was like doing all my meditation. I did an Epsom salt bath with lavender. I was like, sleep. I can't have bags under my eyes. I've got to look fabulous.
It's too funny. And so all this like fashion and fabulous talk, Roberta has a really cool like journey before she ever became a therapist. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about like, you know, your different careers and what you've done, and we'll then journey on in a private practice.
Yes. So notice how Katie said careers with an S at the end of that. So I actually grew up always wanting to be an attorney, but I knew before I got to law school, I wanted to work and save up my money so I wasn't a poor law school student eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I've always loved fashion. I could get lost in my mom's closet for hours as a child. So I got my business degree and studied fashion at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And then I worked in fashion and sales and business for years and loved it. Had an internship at the Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy Corporation. Got free shoes from them. Oh my God, so excited.
What?
Yes, girl. Yes. And it was amazing experiences. And then I finally got to law school, and I kind of always struggled with and see how I use the word struggled with now that I'm a therapist, and know that it's not a good trait with being an insane perfectionist. And when I got to law school, I started feeling really physically sick. And then all of a sudden, things just got really hard for me with my perfectionism, feeling physically sick. And I kept going to doctor after doctor. And what happened was doctors just kept telling me, you have anxiety, you have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with you. We've run all these tests. And I'm like, no, there's something wrong with me. And my mom would say that too. And then finally said, okay, fine, I'll go to therapy, but I don't think there's anything wrong with me. And after going to about 3 therapists that were wearing ugly sweater vests, and I couldn't connect with them, and kept asking me about all this trauma in my childhood, which I didn't feel like I had. I'm like, are you going to give me skills or what? Like, I don't have time for this. I have to read like 1,000 pages about the law right now. And finally, I walked in, 4th therapist, was wearing head to toe Gucci with no labels on the outside, which is serious.
Yes.
She had an Hermes Birkin bag. I don't know if you ladies know out there. Some of you callers will know what that is. Sitting on her desk, and I was like, I'm in love. And she did CBT, and boom. And in a matter of so many sessions, she changed my life. I fell in love with therapy, said, F law school. I don't want to be an attorney anymore. I want to do this. I want to be a life changer, which all of you ladies know about. And that's my journey. That's how I got where I am.
That is such a unique story. I'm just envisioning the therapist, head to toe Gucci and a Birkin bag on the desk. I mean, that is like 1 in a million.
Right? Amazing. Oh my God.
And like a perfect, like ideal therapist for you. I mean, It was like, falling in love at first sight. It sounds like it.
When I saw it, I was like, oh my God, please be smart. Please be smart. Please be smart. I'm like, please don't just be a trophy wife. Please don't just be a trophy wife. And she was incredible. And she used to let me hold her Birkin bags in my lap and like pet them during our therapy sessions.
Oh my goodness. You're hysterical. I love this.
Maybe that was actually the treatment there. I don't know.
You know what's funny? To this day, my ideal clients, they love their bags. They would, I mean, not COVID right now, I'm just doing online, but they bring in their bags. I show my bags. We have like a bag off. We're like, oh my God, look what I just got. I'm like, oh my God, look at mine. It's like,
too funny.
So funny.
So did you like immediately ditch like law school, or did you?
Well, I wanted, after I got better, I hadn't figured out what my chronic illness was, but I wanted to go back and do one more semester to make sure that I was making the proper decision. Also because I wanted to have another semester of straight A's to be able to transition into grad school for psychology. Because I was afraid, I had no psychology background. Like, I have a business degree and I have law school, and I was like, this is going to be tough. So I wanted to have another semester of straight A's. And I also just wanted to do it for me. I loved law school, and I still do. I like psychotically in my head think about, I should just finish it for fun. Like, I love learning. Oh, like Katie knows like so many things about the law, like for fun. And so,
this is true.
It's just like, this is true.
Random and true. Yes, very true. Well, before we continue, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor.
How many times have you responded to a client on Psychology Today only to hear that they contacted 20 other providers so they won't work with you? It's frustrating. The truth is that White Pages style directories leave both clients and counselors feeling burned. We want to make therapy better for everyone involved, and that's why we made Thrivelution. Thrivelution is a revolutionary matching system based on the idea that therapy is most effective when the match between therapist and client is high quality. We provide your practice with quality, low-cost client referrals that are matched with you and only you in seconds. If you're ready to get more clients, sign up with our exclusive promo code for 1 month free of matches at thrivelution.com. The promo code is MATCH21. That's MATCH21 at thrivelution.com.
Okay, guys, it's sponsor time. You know what? Instead of reading a script about Gusto's payroll and benefits, we wanted to tell you what small business owners say, the people who use Gusto every day. Here's what one small business owner says. With Gusto, I think of payroll as a 30-second job. The website is so friendly and a joy to use. Friendly payroll? You don't hear that every day. And how about Amy from Utah? Amy says, I love Gusto so much. It's so painless. It's like going to the spa, and we have great options and rates even though we're a super small team. Like going to the spa? Wow. And here's what Mneet says about Gusto's support team. Whenever something comes up, I reach out and literally 24 hours later, they tell us what to do or assure us that we've already handled it. Smart technology and friendly humans, that's super cool. Honestly, the list goes on, and right now our listeners get 3 months free when they go to gusto.com/PPS. Yep, 3 months of payroll, benefits, administration, and more, totally free. Again, that's gusto.com/PPS. So where does your journey then continue, Roberta, from there? So you finish out another semester of law school. Like, how did you decide, and not being like, you weren't even in the mental health field, so it wasn't kind of like, I already knew I wanted to be a psychologist or a family therapist. How did you decide on where you landed?
I, looked at the different schools. Believe it or not, how I picked Nova was they required the least amount of requirements for me to go there, of like going back and doing extra classes. I just was like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. Let's go. So I went to Nova Southeastern. I got my master's. I didn't know what specific area I wanted to do at that time. I thought most likely what I wanted to specialize was anxiety, because I realized through her I was a perfectionist and I was experiencing anxiety. But I didn't know. I said, who knows? I could fall in love with working with teens, with couples, and I wanted to keep my choices open. Went to Nova, got a master's in mental health counseling, but I knew from the get that I never wanted to work for somebody else, because I come from a family of generations of entrepreneurs, and I knew I wanted my private practice. So that was like in my mindset from the beginning. So every class that I took, every professor I met was with that mindset of, this is what I want to do. And I would tell them from my first class, and every response that I got from my professors was, you can't be a registered intern and be successful in private practice. And I was like, why? Tell me why.
I love it.
And I was like, you just made me extra want to do it. So, and what I saw that the model at the time, because this is back in 2012 when I graduated, that most registered interns would go into a group practice with a licensed, other therapist. And I went, but why would I want to do that? Everyone's my competition. So I thought, let me think there's got to be a different way, because my family has always taught me as an entrepreneur, think outside of the box. And what I did was I thought, well, who else's license can I practice under? And I started researching, and I went, duh, a psychiatrist, and he can feed me way more, and we can work together with his patients, my clients. And that's what I did. And I was successful, like right at the bat. And it was amazing. As a registered intern, that's where I had my first office. And I was there for years. And then I transitioned from there into my own office.
And I remember that too. And I remember when you were a registered intern. We met when you were a registered intern. Should we share the funny story about our first meeting? Because we're personal friends as well. So I met Roberta actually at one of the Gottman trainings back in 2012 when Kate and I were president and vice president of the Broward Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. And Roberta and I have a very good friend in common, and we connected and stuff like that. And then I think I told Roberta about was it how you're supposed to advertise registered mental health counseling intern?
It's in an email, because I had sent you an email knowing I'm looking forward to meeting you. I've so much about you, our personalities. Tanya told me our personalities are so much alike.
Yeah. And so like I came back with like the law on advertising, because if you know my personality, I'm a very high D with a C. So what that means is I'm a mover and a shaker, and I move really fast, but I'm all about like compliance. And what's funny, and that was actually, Roberta, that was a huge like learning lesson for me in my own journey in regards to like how I come off to people, because I know you talked to Tani about it, and then Tani talked to me, and I'm like, oh God, I like offended Roberta. That's so inappropriate or whatever. And Tani told you like, hey, Katie's like a double shot espresso, hold the milk, but she means really well. And I was like, wow, for someone I've not just met, this is really good feedback. And I'm naturally not a fluff person, if you guys know what that means. Like, I just like to communicate straight to the point and like move on. But I really had to learn in business, like, take a step back. This is not a race. We don't have to just get to the end, connect. And it's funny because as a therapist, I'm great at building rapport. I think it's more of the context of being in the room. So that was our first meeting. Thank God Roberta didn't write me off as some like, I
actually liked you. I was like, who is this? It was because I signed off my email as like RMHCI, like, because where I did my internship, my supervisor taught me to do that. So I thought it was right. And Katie wrote me back super dry, like, that's wrong. This is how you do it, period. Like, that was the email. And I was like, who's this bitch? And I like didn't even respond to her, because I was like, I'm going to talk to her in person and let her know, number one, I love you. But number two, you think about people like that.
I've literally done that on like LinkedIn. Like, I don't know, I guess as a supervisor and someone who teaches laws and rules and ethics and boundary, like Kate and I do, like, I don't know where I became the advertising police, but I no longer do that. And again, I thank you for that, because it was amazing feedback on how I come off, and not good. Oh, too funny.
But back then you were, a fabulous. You were part of the Kate and Katie Fabulous private practice startup group, and look at now you have to give you guys both give so much incredible information all the time, and you would never come out in your videos like, you have to do this. No. Can you imagine? You guys would have no followers.
No, exactly. Yeah. I had to do a lot of changing.
Right.
And funny story.
Yeah. So let's take a quick break for our sponsor before we dive into the next part.
Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes billing, notes, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why it's rated the highest EHR on Trustpilot with over 1,000 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 or 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for the trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week. So when you have questions, you can quickly reach someone who can help. You are never wasting time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial, so you can get going right away. Use the promo code PPS to get your first 2 months for free, or try out Therapy Notes for free, no strings attached, including their very reliable telehealth platform. Make 2021 the best year yet with Therapy Notes.
Roberta, you really had to think outside of the box on how to be successful, and you made a decision that really made you successful. So begin to share with us some of kind of like the struggles, but also what has helped you be successful in private practice as well.
Okay. So first, a struggle, a major one, obviously. So we did finally find out what my diagnosis was, and I have a chronic illness that I do struggle with. It's called vestibular migraines. So it's a type of migraine that I have other than the headaches and migraines. I have really horrifically fun dizziness. So imagine if I put you in a desk chair, one that spins around, and if I were to spin you around for 5 minutes and then made you get up and like go about your day. Would not be fun, right? So that's what I've struggled with since I was 18 years old. And we did not find out the true diagnosis until I was in my maybe early 30s. So, and then just having to find the right medication, the right balance. But luckily, because of having that amazing the Birkin therapist back years ago, she helped me really use my CBT skills to get through a lot of things. So, but when the pandemic hit, back in March, I went completely 100% online doing telehealth. And that just made me take such a nosedive with my health. And oh my God, I can't even begin to tell you ladies and listeners out there how bad it was for me. My health hadn't been that bad in like 7 years. And, but I was still carrying the same caseload because I'm like, positive Polly, put on your face. And because I love what I do so much, I'm kind of able to separate, you know, like, even though I would wake up and I know TMI, puking my guts out, I had lost about 35 pounds in a month and a half, which I know a lot of people will be like, I want to lose 30 pounds. It's not fun doing it that way. And my neurologist, she's the chief of the migraine and neurology department at the University of Miami. She's phenomenal. And we have a really good relationship. She, you know, during an appointment pulled me aside and said, Roberta, you cannot keep going like this. You need to cut clients back in half, if not less, but you need to just take care of yourself right now. She's like, this is not going to keep going. She like talked to me like as a mom. She's like, this is it. She's like, I don't care. No. And I was like, you're right. I have the means to do it. I've been doing really well for a long time. I have to take care of me. So, but that was a really hard struggle because as someone who loves what they do so much and it doesn't feel like work, it was so hard to tell clients like, but it fit like, thank God with the universe, it was like perfect timing. So many clients were just finishing because with CBT, it's like, you know, it's not like for a year or anything like that. And then referring out others. And it was just, I had to, you know, I cut my caseload from 20 to like 7. And that's what I managed and it felt good. And I did it until I felt in the right place and my health got better.
Mm-hmm. So one of the interesting part of like your journey, like the biggest struggle, right, has been these chronic migraines. And I know because I've spoken to you many times and there's times where you're like, I just, you know, call me because I can't even type, you know. And so where most people starting a practice, like the struggle is, how do I get it started? I don't know what to do. And you almost like had less time to build a successful practice because you've been managing your health issues for so long. So what are some things that you think helped you build the successful practice? And did you struggle like most therapists with scarcity mindset or not really?
I never struggled with a scarcity mindset. I'm lucky. I'm, again, coming from a family of entrepreneurs, and my family's Brazilian, even though I was born in Australia. It's a country that you're so happy for the smallest thing. And I come from a really positive family and I've always worked on my positivity because it's part of my health. Like I don't have a choice. I can't be a negative Nelly or my health is going to go down. And I've always been that way. And, but some of the things that have been really great in helping me in making my practice successful, one is like how I said, thinking out of the box. But another is negotiation skills, which is also part of my Brazilian culture is, for example, during COVID, I negotiated my rent right off the bat to half and to a larger office because I'm in an executive office suite. And I was like, I want half. I'm going to pay half. It's not, can you do this for me? It's, I want to pay half and I want the larger office. And next year, because how it is in the contract with this executive office suite, you're not going to raise it by the 10% you always raise it. Okay, thank you. So it's like that. But first I say why. So when you're negotiating, what my tip is you always come with how you bring value to that other person, let's say a vendor. And I said, I know that your office, your suites are half empty. I have been doing online therapy. You guys know that I haven't been coming in there. Technically, I don't really need to come in there. And there's a lot of therapists that have been only doing online therapy. I know you don't want to lose another client. And I've always been paying on time. You know that you're going to get me in another contract for a full year. You have a guaranteed person. And I have a friend that wants to sign up for the office, my old office, my smaller office, if you give me the larger office. So it's like that, you know, it's important when you come to the negotiation table that you come exactly with what you want, not like, what can you do for me? Because then they're going to it's like, no, I want 30% for this and add that. Ask for 2 things, not just one. Like, I want this plus that from your platinum package. So
it sounds like that's like where all your like business and like law school stuff kind of comes in for really helping you within business. Talk a little, you know, obviously therapists struggle most with marketing. So talk a little bit about, you know, how have you marketed yourself besides, you know, connecting with the psychiatrist because you're no longer with the psychiatrist, and how has that been helpful? And I know that obviously you are one of our e-course alumni, and share a little bit about what you learned in the e-course that you've taken away that you've utilized and implement today that works.
And I don't want people to think like, oh, Katie and Kate paid Roberta to say these things. Not at all. And I cannot stress enough. And I come from I'm very business minded naturally, but I cannot stress enough out there for people how amazing their marketing e-course is. Because I took it because my degree from the Fashion Institute of Technology is not like normal college. It's so hands-on. Like, you literally learn what you're going to do in the real fashion world. Like, you learn, you know, I was learning how to be a buyer and how to do visual merchandising. Like, what I was learning in class was like actually what was happening in the industry in the moment. It's not like, oh, a philosophy class or, oh, biology. It's not like that. So that's why I think I am successful business-wise. But what I really loved in in the marketing course from Kate and Katie, it was so tangible. It was so like, here's a formula of how to write your marketing message, A, B, C. And even I want to give you an example of like, they really took it down to a science of your ideal client, like a worksheet. And I'm all about worksheets. Katie knows this. I showed her one day, like this file folder of worksheets that I do with my clients. She was like, her eyes went, oh, I want to look at that. I was like, this is gold. I am all about a worksheet because people love to see, like, instead of how some other coaches will be like, you have to know what your ideal client is. Like, you know, what's their favorite, blah. And it's kind of like a journaling entry. And I'm sorry, they literally break it down into specific details and dissect it. And I loved it. Like, even naming her, my girl's London. And I was just foaming at the mouth when I was going through their course. I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I even went as far as creating a mood board for her on Canva. And let me tell you, and let me transition this to you, that it not only helped me really write my copy and my marketing message for my website. Just recently, I completely redid my website. And when I talked to my web designer, who is amazing, because I interview like 20,000 people, because I'm like, I only want the best for London. You know exactly what I did? I pulled out that exercise that Kate and Katie had from the e-course about my target client, London, because they really had us write out every section that really gets into the nitty-gritty of who your ideal client is. And I went and emailed it to Abby, who's the love of my life. Her name is Abby Jacobs, and her company is called Good Dot Design. She's in Colorado. And she was like, I have never had a client send me something so detailed and so beautiful. She was like, I know exactly who your client is. I'm like, you know why? Because of Kate and Katie from the Private Practice Startup. and then I sent her my little mood board that I had created on Canva. And from that, she was able to create my website and pick the pictures. I didn't even have to pick the pictures for my website because she knew my client inside out. You know how much time that saved me?
Yeah.
Because when I pick pictures, being the crazy perfectionist I am, she knew her because of everything Kate and Katie taught me through that. And then I also hired her to clean up my copy. And I went, here's the marketing messages that Kate and Katie had me do through the formula. I want you to make sure you're really following this formula. Do not give me fluff. No fluff. I want this. Follow their magical formula. And because it works. It works. My calls, the amount of clients that I got really increased significantly when I changed following. Your course is superb.
I love hearing about lovely London too.
London, she's so fabulous.
I love you sharing about that, because I think one of the things is that, Kate and I are like emphatic on, and what we realize that therapists do, and we get it because we've been there, right? It's like, oh my God, I started a private practice. I need clients or I'm not going to survive. And then what we do is we naturally run to all these strategies, and it takes something within ourselves to sit back. And I always talk about it as doing the internal work, right? Because the reality is either we are our ideal client, right? Or we have someone connected to us or related to us who's that ideal client. So it is this really interesting process of going inward, connecting, thinking, experiencing what that ideal client goes through. And the beauty is, and Kate and I are like, I know I'm always astounded when, people go through our course and they haven't even like started a marketing strategy. Like I think about like Sean Davis, and it's like, and Marla Berger, like they're starting to get their ideal clients just because they're clear now on who that is. They know how to speak their language. They know how on that call to, empathize with what's not even being said, because you know who you're speaking to. And then the client's like, exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, I just spoke to like 5 other therapists and they don't get that. And it's just like a beautiful thing. And I love that you're kind of sharing that. And sometimes we don't even think like, well, if I get really like clear, like how is that going to make me get more clients? But I love that you're highlighting this aspect of the process and the journey of the therapist going through this. So thank you for that. Yeah. I'm curious too, like what are just some other things that have helped you be successful? How do you love to market?
Bringing back to your e-course and how the getting really clear on the ideal client is, so my client, London is an insane perfectionist, right? So even in, you have to, I think something as, she's a perfectionist and she's also a hypochondriac. She goes to a lot of doctors because she's burnt out. She's burnt out. She works 80, 90 hours a week, and then she has anxiety, obviously, because I'm an anxiety specialist. So she starts to have panic attacks. She starts to not feel good, and she wants to figure out what's wrong with her. She goes to a lot of doctors. So in me, being someone who struggled with a lot of chronic illnesses, I have been to a lot of doctors. I go to a lot of doctors. I am BFF with all of my doctors. I have all their cell phones. They have a stack of my cards. Right. And business cards are I know people go like, oh, they're so cheesy. They can't help you. But my doctors are the biggest referral source for me. I cannot tell you, I would say 30% of my clients come from my personal doctors. And you bet every time that I go to my doctor's appointment, I am bringing a present. I am bringing cookies. I am bringing their favorite chocolate. I am bringing them flowers, and not just them, their staff. Because it's my doctors that are referring and their front desk. They're like, oh my God, Roberta, you always bring us presents. And I'm like, and Katie knows my language is all about gifts. But it's like those little things. And then on top of it, for like example, when I said my personal doctor, who's a neurologist, she's the head of department of the University of Miami. She's internationally like known. The Washington Post and the New York Times quotes her on a consistent basis. Her waiting list is 6 months. 6 months. But because I have a good relationship with her and her assistant, I can get my clients in earlier, like in a month. So because of having that relationship, and that's like, you know, that gives me like, oh, a brand new client. Like when I'm on a phone consult, like a free phone consult, and they say, oh, I'm suffering with migraines. I'm like, well, I know that blah, 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 and I can get you in, da, 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 da. That's a closer right there. But I'm getting sent, like I know this great functional medicine doctor, she sends me a ton of clients. And just my primary care, my gynecologist, my dentist, my like chiropractor, my massage therapist, my person who gives me the best pedicures, like every single person that I give consistent, you know, that business to, they know Roberta specializes in anxiety. You want to go to her. Like I've found that when I try to really, yes, I try to connect with other therapists to make them a constant referral source for me. And some are, but sometimes it's hard. If they've been in business for a long time, they already have a best friend or something that it is. I've seen that with my personal doctors because I have that, I've made that relationship, and I keep every time they see my face, I'm like, oh, you have to, you know, my business is going great. How are you feeling? How's your anxiety going? Let me teach you a technique. Like, you know, I'm reminding them, and like, they're like, yes, Roberta.
I love how you share that, because it's a nice balance of both the online, having that, we talk about websites being a non-negotiable. You've got an amazing website that speaks directly to your ideal clients, and it compels them to want to work with you. It's that constantly working machine for you. And then you have these beautiful relationships with your core network of doctors. And it's so organic to be able to get the referral relationships going both ways on those relationships. And it just sounds like those are the main strategies for you. So it's kind of a balance between the online and the community marketing. And that's what's worked so beautifully to really fill your practice.
Yes.
And one of the things, knowing Roberta, her love language is gift giving. And so Kate and I always talk about is you have to find marketing strategies that are your natural strengths. So this is just something she loves to do, and it works for her. And I'm like getting chills as we talk about this, because marketing doesn't have to be difficult. It has to be aligned to your personal strengths and values. And then it becomes easy and enjoyable. I mean, you guys hear Roberta talking, like this is what works for her. Doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you, but if this is part of who you are and you just love doing this. And one of the things that really stood out for me, Roberta, is, you know, there's something that I learned a while back called the EDI or ED formula. So it's EDIE, right? So it's for education, demonstration, information, and entertain. I love that you say, how's your anxiety? Oh, here's a cool like tip I learned recently, or let's practice. Like you're demonstrating what you do. I don't think I've ever really heard therapists do that, maybe like on a video or something like that. But I love that you go that extra step and, you know, having someone experience what it is like working with you. So that's like super stellar. As we begin to wrap up, we want to know like where you are now, how your practice has evolved. And I know that you have like not shifted your focus, because I know you're still working with anxiety, but I know that you're also helping folks with migraines. Share quickly about that.
So I have a 3-part system that I've created to help people who are struggling with migraines, because there is a huge connection with people who struggle with anxiety, who also, you know, struggle with migraines. And obviously it's a huge thing that's close to my heart. And I call myself a migraine coach. And because I do I specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy, the American Headache Society has come out with tons of research that cognitive behavioral therapy actually helps people who struggle with migraines. And so my 3-part system is really built for clients who want to work on reducing their migraines, in conjunction to seeing, a neurologist, or some people don't want to go the medication route at all. And I just kind of help you understand things like knowing what your triggers are, because a lot of people have no idea what your triggers are. And that's number one, you need to know that. We're on one right now, computer screens, phones, a lot a lot of therapists that I've talked to all of a sudden are like, wow, I'm suffering with so many headaches and at the end of the day, or migraines that I've never even had before because I am online all the time. And the thing about migraines, which obviously I know, is they can manifest not only as headaches. And people forget headaches means having pain here, having pain here. This is all like back here in the occipital lobe. That's all part of your head. Some people will say, oh, I suffer with allergies all the time. That's actually tied to migraines. So there's this really great book called Heal Your Headache from Dr. David Buchholz that talks about all the different kinds of migraines that exist and the different symptoms that people don't even realize when you talk about like eye pain or like the pain behind your eyes, that's migraine related. The other part, that I talk about is how to mitigate or can work around those triggers. And then I talk about natural ways to help reduce your migraines through all different types of techniques that I've learned myself and then studied from the American Headache Society, and then learning specifically from my neurologist. And let me tell you, one of the moments that touched my heart so much in my journey was my neurologist invited me to start going to conferences with her. And I literally started bawling because that meant so much to me that she thinks that I've, grown enough knowledge for her to want me to go with her and start introducing and start to speak at conferences. And like, I was like, oh my God, yes.
That's amazing.
So
wow.
Like, it's just that I want people to understand who have migraines out there. There is help. And if it's not me, there are there are other migraine coaches out there. There are other therapists that specialize in helping you to get that you don't have to suffer. And once you get over it, like over that huge hump, life is so much better. And I just implore you to do what it takes to get better.
Awesome. I really love that you made your pain, your passion, and your purpose. And that's really beautiful. And I guess Kate must be thinking the same because she's smiling.
You guys can't see me, but I'm laughing and smiling because I literally was about to say the exact same thing. Katie and I share a brain. Can you tell?
Yes, a little bit. So Roberta, I know that you have a giveaway for our audience. What is that?
Yes. So I want to offer 20% off of a package of 3 migraine coaching sessions to any of the listeners out there when you reach out and visit. So if you visit my website, which is essenceofhealingcounseling.com, and you can fill out the contact form or, call from my phone number there. You could just say Kate and Katie, that's the promo code, and you'll get that at anytime. There's no limitation.
Nice. And we'll put that on our show notes page. And I know that Roberta had mentioned good.design.com. We'll also add that. And she referenced Heal Your Headache. We'll put that on the show notes page too as well. And Roberta, what do you hope that people take away from your message today?
So the really important thing I want to say is, and I know so many of us out there as practitioners of the healing arts, as I'd like to say, because we're artists. We are artists. And we have to practice what we preach, because I do not have a choice to not practice self-care. It's not a choice. Because of my chronic illness, I have to do all the things. I have to keep a really strict self-care routine, or I will literally crumble down into a hole. But guess what? Guess who else has to practice self-care? And it's not a choice. You guys out there. Because, hello, you guys will also burn out and crumble to a hole. And it's so important for all of the listeners out there, because you guys are so necessary in this world. Because you have so many others out there that need to heal. You have so many that you're taking care, that our jobs are so important. And just think of this year of how many people have struggled with so many things that people have never struggled with before, anxiety, depression, all kinds of things that, they've never have. And I just really want you guys to start making it a practice and start to enjoy it. So
nice.
Not just for you in a professional way, but for you personally as well.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I loved hearing your story in more depth, and it's always great to see you. And I know Katie mentioned this earlier. It's just so cool to hear how you have transformed your own pain and struggles in such a specific area and developed this beautiful niche to help such an important need in our community. And it's, I know as people are listening to this podcast, when someone has that need, they will definitely be thinking about you and reaching out because it is such a specific niche. So thank you for being here and sharing your story with us and your energy and fun. It's just, you're energetic and fun, and it's great. And Startup Nation, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. We always love for you to share our podcast with your friends and fellow colleagues. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review our show. You can find the link to do so on our show notes page. And if there's a topic that we haven't had yet, let us know, because we're always trying to create content that really meets your needs. We will look forward to seeing you on the next episode, which is... Katie?
Which is Tony Matea. We'll be talking about the hiring process and really making that more enjoyable and finding ways to actually do that in more effective ways. So join us next time on that. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.